John Bond and his son, I think between them got about 60 years service as an ambulance service. So if you need ambulance services, you have to call 911, ask them to send vital care out. So in Jacksboro Metals, still cleaning up the county, folks. They're working hard every day. You go down there and see all the trash. It's metal, it's scrap, but if it was laying on the side of the road, it'd be trash. And it'd be looking bad. So they're doing a public service and paying you for it when you take your stuff down there. So, and Wednesdays is a Winter Wednesday. The 20th person gets extra $20 on their load. So go down and see the folks at Jacksboro Metals. I got my sidekick Jim Slusher here with me. So I think we've got quite a bit to go over. We'll take your calls. We're going to, I guess, Jim, we're going to start off with the county commission.
I think that'd be a good place to start, Jerry. You want me to bring the people up to date where we are?
Go ahead. Well, then I'll chip in, and we've got an article here that Boomer wrote that's got some problems with it. We're going to address that.
You know, Jerry, we started this budget process late this year with the county commission. They promised they were going to start it right away as soon as they finished the budget. That did not happen. So they're in the budget process. The deadline is, I guess, June 30th, and they haven't even entertained the school board's budget yet, which makes up, what, 70% of the budget or so? It makes
up a good probably at least 75% of it.
And I talked to my friend Mike Orick, and they've made no formal presentation to the school board. But anyway, you know, last year, to kind of blend into this, the county commission and mayor went on a happy train, and I'm talking about Mayor Morton. I'm not talking about Mayor Baird.
Right.
Mayor Morton is the chairman of the board and also the chief executive officer of the county.
Of the county, right.
So they got on this happy train, and all of a sudden taxes were flying every which way. They had us.
Hold on a minute. Let's see something. You're on the air.
Are you on tonight?
We're on.
Well, on the internet it says.
Yeah, the honeybee informed me that something's going on with the streaming, and she can't get it on there. She's working on it though.
Okay.
But we're on. I apologize. She said for some reason the internet's not working.
All right. Well, it wasn't working last week either, was it?
I think she said in parts. Some of them said it was. Some of them said it wasn't. I think she said it took about 15 minutes once the show started to get it working, and hopefully that'll be the case tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy. I figured that'd be what that call was about.
So anyway, it kind of felt strange that all of a sudden all these new taxes could be levied upon the people.
Right.
And I checked the wheel tax, and the thing had been put in illegally. The law says that you have to have a supermajority, 2/3 vote, and it must be voted on in 2 consecutive meetings. It failed to do that. So
well, it didn't fail to do it. They just didn't do it that way.
Right. They didn't do it that way.
They didn't even attempt to do it.
And even the one they put back, I think, in either 2010 or 2011, never got a supermajority vote. So they killed that, but they still wound up putting a 13.1% increase on the taxpayers of Campbell County in the property tax rate. 13.1%. Now, how many of you have received a pay raise of 13.1%?
Yeah, at one time.
But your taxes went up 13.1%. Well, you come along this year, and by the way, the Attorney General never answered the inquiry about whether they had to restore the money, I guess, to the taxpayers, and because the Attorney General is very selective on what they respond to. But anyway, we're rocking along this year, and now they have a 25% tax increase on the table. And I think they endorsed it. Is that not right?
Some of them endorsed it, not all of them. Some of them did.
So anyway, tying back to that, and it gets a little complicated, tying back to that, in a meeting, Cliff Jennings had challenged a commissioner, Mrs. Nance, on her vote of having a direct conflict of interest. Well, this stirred a hornet's nest up. And I think he also had informed Johnny Bruce that he was going to challenge him on a direct conflict of interest. Well, I'm sitting here looking at a 25% tax increase, and the school board hasn't come in with their increase yet. And this conflict of interest just all of a sudden popped in there. And I said, let me go check it. And Joe Coker had told, I think, Cliff Jennings that he kind of gave an indication that there wasn't, but I went and looked it up, and guess what? Lo and behold, the Holy Grail that Mr. Coker uses and Jeff Marlowe uses and anybody else uses when they want an opinion in their favor, they use the Holy Grail of an outfit called CTAS.
This is the Tennessee County Government Handbook by CTAS is what we're reading from.
And it's called the County Technical Assistance Service. So I pull it up on the internet, and that thing's about 300 pages long. You wouldn't believe what's in that. I don't know why anybody would have to run to CTAS for an interpretation when they've got the Holy Grail in front of them, handed to them free of charge by CTAS. But anyway, I found out that the commission has a conflict of interest. Lo and behold.
Big conflict of interest.
It appears to me that the county employees are the ones that are sitting as the county commissioners, or they have a direct conflict of interest. And Mr. Coker had a ruling from CTAS that everyone could vote unless they went to work for the county after they were elected. Well, one guy resigned his job with the county, and I think Jerry wants to talk about that a little later.
We'll get to that. A caller called and asked about one of the county commissioners going to the rock quarry. I hope you're there. I hope the listeners, caller, whatever you call it, ma'am, I remember that, and I checked into it, and I've got a world of information about that. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I think he found out that rock work can be hard, and I don't mean that as a play on
It didn't work out well for him, did it?
It's pretty hard.
It didn't work out well.
But anyway, I read that, and I told Mr. Coker when he read the rule, I said, I agree with Mr. Coker in total, but I go back and I look it up on my own, and then it's got the vote of any member who is required to make a disclosure, and they have not been making the required disclosure when they have a conflict, and does not do so if it is challenged in a timely manner, then you can nullify the vote. A legislative body member who is also a county employee and whose employment began on or after the date on which the member was initially selected as a member of the governing body may not vote on matters in which the member has a conflict of interest. But then it says, the catch-all, we come under the FMS, the Act of 1981.
The County Financial Management Act of 1981.
Right. It said, in some situations, however, officials are held to a more stringent standard of conduct referred to as the strict rule. Under this standard, both direct and indirect conflicts of interest are prohibited. And Jerry's going to tell you in a minute what a conflict of interest is.
Well, the people that have a conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Although under the general rule, direct interests are allowed. Remember, I told you if they take a job with the county before they're elected, they still have an interest, conflict of interest, but they're allowed to vote.
Let me get to that, Jim, while we're on that.
All right.
Okay. There is a section in the Tennessee Code Annotated that strictly tells you what a conflict of interest is and who has a conflict of interest, okay? And there's a section there that lists as an immediate family. If you've got an immediate family working for the county, that means immediate family means spouse, dependent children, or stepchildren, or relatives related by blood or marriage. So that means brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, in-laws. If you've got somebody on that, then you have a conflict of interest. I talked to a member of the school board today that told me, this is a fact now, he told me in the school board alone, there's 10 members on the school board, 9 of them have conflict of interest. And if this strict rule holds up, they won't have but one person can vote on the budget.
Okay, now.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, although under the general rule, indirect conflicts are allowed if they are disclosed, the strict rule disallows the interest altogether. There are several statutes which prescribe this strict rule. We come under the second rule. It says, the second provision in the County Financial Management System of 1981, which we come under.
Which we come under,
I
right.
call it the Marlowe
The Marlowe Act, yeah.
which applies to any county which it has been adopted and essentially holds all county officials and employees to the strict rules. And it bans a direct and indirect conflict. Although the general rule, indirect interests are allowed if they're disclosed, the strict rules disallows any interest whatsoever.
And if you want to read this for yourself, folks, Google Tennessee County, Google Tennessee County Government Handbook, and you'll find it, and go to pages 111 to 112 and 113, and you can read this exactly for yourself, what we're talking about. And what our contention is, Mr. Slusher's contention, and I fully agree with him, under this strict rule, it says indirect and direct conflicts are prohibited. That means if this thing pans out, and Mr. Slusher, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Coker, and with your assistance, drafted up a question that's going to go through the mayor, is going to go through our state representative, is going to go to the Attorney General for his ruling as to whether, and I'm going to just not because I'm picking on him, but I'm going to use him as Johnny Bruce, who is a county employee. This strict rule is going to come down. Hopefully the Attorney General will decide to give an opinion on this and let you know whether he can actually vote on the budget or not, okay? Now, Mr. Coker wanted to say last night, or Monday night, that it only pertains to equipment, services, supplies, materials, and contracts, okay? He was trying to say that that's all it applies to. Well, if you think about it, when you vote on the budget, you're voting to fund all of that. There's going to be equipment, there's going to be supplies, there's going to be contracts, there's going to be other things purchased on the budget. So,
Didn't he also say, Jerry, that there were other statutes that overruled this statute, that this statute did not take precedence, and there's no provision? I'm trying to go from memory here, and I may not be getting it totally correct, and if I am.
well, but he only was talking about the general rule. He never did discuss. Mr. Coker went on a 20-minute diatribe, but he only talked about the general rule. He never discussed at all the strict rule. And our question was the strict rule. It had nothing to do with the general rule. But Mr. Coker wanted to spend 20 minutes talking about the general rule, what you're allowed to do and not to do. And we informed him that, our question, and I had to leave, so Mr. Slusher went up and talked to him afterwards. Our question was on the strict rule.
Now, the strict rule, here's what the strict rule says, and that we come under this statute. Our county commission several years ago, and I think to the county's detriment, but we're stuck with it, decided to come under the 1981 Act. Here's what the 1981 Act says about conflicts of interest. And Jerry's already told you what a conflict of interest is. The director, that would be Marlowe. Purchasing agent, that would be Marlowe's office.
Right.
Members of the committee, I assume that's the members of the FMS committee. Members of the county legislative body. That's your county commission. Officials. That would include Mr. Morton. Employees or other members of the Board of Education
Oh, the Board of Education is mentioned there. Okay.
or Highway Commission shall not be financially interested or have any personal benefit either directly or indirectly. That's the law. It doesn't take a genius to read that.
And this is where I got in the purchase of any supplies, materials, equipment, or contractual services for the county. Okay?
Right.
And the budget pertains to all of that.
Yep, because
Okay.
you go back, you track it back to what CTAS says. And CTAS says a conflict of interest can come up in this situation anytime the county votes on appropriations or budgets.
Right.
That's when it says it's CTAS, the holy grail.
Yeah. Every time they want a question answered, they say, we got to contact CTAS.
We gotta call CTAS.
We get CTAS, we don't do nothing without CTAS.
And by the way, I offered the suggestion to the commission that CTAS be banned from giving us any more legal advice, and that drew a snicker from a lot of people.
Well, and he did that, folks, because last week's meeting, Joe Coker read an opinion, and it's all there are is opinions, an opinion from one member of CTAS that stated one thing about this issue. And then this week, Joe Coker said, I've never seen this before. He said, but this same member changed his opinion and now feels differently about it. So, if you got somebody that's sitting down there at CTAS, and you've been getting the information from them for years, and all of a sudden one week you've got one opinion, the next week you've got a different opinion, his credibility, in my opinion, is shot. Okay? Which opinion do you trust? Which one's right? Which one's wrong? Just because he changed his mind, does that all of a sudden make the one, well, now I've changed my mind from what I said last week, so this one's correct? Maybe the one last week was correct and he's wrong now. His credibility to me is shot. This guy, we don't need to be asking him anything else.
I wouldn't ask CTAS where the men's room was.
No, they've done proved in this one situation that some of them don't know what they're talking
Well,
about.
supposedly CTAS told them that the way they were doing the wheel tax was legal, and then they supposedly came back and said, well, we were wrong on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars collected from the taxpayers illegally.
Let's take this call. You're on the air.
Hey, guys, I want to say that I never saw so much courage in my life. What I saw Monday night.
Okay.
That was very, it takes a lot of courage to be a good citizen and a responsible citizen, and to keep an eye on your government, make sure they're towing the line. Hey, about Coker. Coker likes to quote that Title 12 law under Tennessee Code Annotated, and he also likes to refer a lot to that Title 5. Now, that Title 12 law was written in 1870. That's 145 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, surely something's took his place by now.
And he also likes to refer back to that Title 5 clause on conflict of interest. The Title 12 refers to conflict of interest back in 1870. I don't know if we had enough people to have a county commission back then without a conflict of interest. But Title 5 was written in 1921. So when you phrase your question to the State Attorney General, be sure and specify very clearly the latest law, the 1981.
We did that.
That was done.
That was done.
Don't let them muddy the water with these old laws that were written back in 1870 and 1921. I don't think any of us three were born.
Well, see, these things here that we're reading you, and what I'm reading you is the 5-21-121. What you're referring to is, that all refers to the general rule, okay? But when you get to the strict rule, and that's our point to this, it overrides this, but this is what Joe Coker wanted to talk about the other night, as opposed to talking about the strict rule, which was our question to begin with.
Coker wants to ignore the 1981 finance.
He wants to, that was what I felt like also.
Yeah, listen to this, Hazel Valley, listen to this. This is from CTAS. We're going to say we like CTAS, so we're going to take their... A conflict of interest can come up in this situation anytime the county commission votes on appropriations or budgets. It's talking about being an employee and a conflict of interest. That law says that the commission shall not be financially interested or have any personal beneficial interest, either directly or indirectly, in the purchase of any supplies, materials, equipment, or contractual services of the county. You know what all those things are? That's your budget.
That's your budget.
That is the budget.
Coker reminds me of Bill Clinton, who likes to bring law out of thin air.
Yeah.
He, in these liberal courts that like to pull law out of thin air, when he made that comment that only a commissioner could challenge a commissioner's vote, I almost died laughing.
I can't find it in law, nor can I find it in Robert's Rules of Order.
And what he's talking about, folks, let me clarify what he's talking about.
Neither can Coker.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Well, hold on, Hazel Valley. What he's talking about, folks, is Mr. Slusher got up and made this speech, and this document here from the Tennessee County Government Handbook, I passed out a copy of this to every commissioner, to the mayor, to the county clerk, to the county attorney, to the finance director, everybody that was involved, plus a few others. I passed out a copy of this document to every one of them. So Mr. Slusher made his point. They didn't say anything about it. When they made a budget vote, Mr. Slusher got up and said, I'm going to challenge certain votes on this. And then Mr. Coker come back and said, well, only commissioners can make these challenges. A citizen can't make these challenges. Well, we've researched, Hazel Valley, I called him, Hazel Valley researched this, Mr. Slusher researched it, I researched it. We can't find that in the code anywhere that says only commissioners can make that challenge. Is that right, Hazel Valley?
Yep, and let me tell you something else about CTAS. It is a bureaucratic political organization that relies on tax dollars for its sustenance and maintenance. They will not rule against anybody who votes for taxes.
So
No way.
Yeah. Let me throw one thing in here that's kind of
Get off here. Hey, I just want to commend y'all for the job you're doing, and thank you for taking my call and letting me express opinion of mine.
okay, thank you, buddy.
I'm proud of both of you. You're great Campbell County.
Thank you, man.
I called the day, I think it was the day of the board meeting. The day of the board meeting, or maybe one day last week. And I asked the vice mayor, because, a lot of people are asking me where the mayor stood on this 25% tax increase on the top of 13.1% last year, which works out to about 40% increase in less than a year. I'm sure your wages have gone up to cover that. So, but anyway, I said, what's his position on that? He said, well, the mayor's a pass-through. I said, what? He said, the mayor is a pass-through for the 15 commissioners. I said, wait a minute, Andy. The mayor is the chief executive officer of this county. I mean, he is the man, to use Dennis Potter's words. He's the man. He not only is the chief executive officer of the county, he is the one that holds the gavel.
That's right.
He's got it all. He is the man, as Dennis Potter would
And
say.
remember, he ran saying he was going to be a leader.
Yeah.
He ran saying he's going to be a leader.
So I had an opportunity to go by and see Mr. Morton on Monday, and I related to him what had been said to me
By his deputy mayor.
by his deputy mayor. And I also informed him what I informed his deputy mayor as. If you all recall, I told you that I strongly supported and did everything I could to get E.L. Martin elected. And I'm not asking but one thing out of him, because I don't need anything, but I ask one thing. Give this county leadership. And you know what? Mr. Morton gave the county leadership Monday night. It was very evident that he had taken a hold of the gavel and he wasn't going to turn it loose. And he fulfilled two promises. Monday night, he demonstrated leadership. And Monday night, he said he was going to open the county government up to the people. And he opened his county government up to the people. And I say his county government because he is the chief executive officer of the county.
That's right.
Can I relate a little story here, Jerry? I had to go to a wake up in Pineville, Kentucky. I'm from Bell County, born in Bell County, but raised in Tennessee. And I had to go up there this evening. And I can remember as a kid traveling, making that trip back and forth between Clinton, and what a rich, beautiful area that was up through there. Coal mines everywhere, just work galore. And I drove up through there and I hit the Bell County line. And it was just like going into a third world. The place is an economic disaster. The businesses all the way to Pineville closed. And I could remember in Pineville as a kid, you couldn't walk through the traffic and the streets are empty. The place is a ghost town. And I just see that cloud of poverty working its way down to Campbell County, because we've lost all of our coal, and people can try to bring it back. After the mayor checked into it, I think he threw his hands up because the coal miners are competing against each other to see who can produce it the cheapest.
Right.
And TVA at the same time is flicking off switches to fossil fuel plants. But it's coming here. The reason why your taxes are going up 25% is there is no tax base in Campbell County. We have no industry. Here they are, they're going to lay a 25% tax increase on the average citizen of this county, and we just lost the best factory this county ever had as far as wages.
Right.
What, 265 people, something along that line?
Good paying jobs.
We just lost them. Do you think the county commission batted an eye? No. We need 25%. Jerry, at the same time, in this government, we have a new judge that they had to go up on the taxes in order to pay her salary, in order to pay her increase. Isn't she going to make $153,000 now?
$153,000.
$153,000 right out of your pocket.
Just to be a judge.
If I was her, I'd deny half the pay raise and give it back to the people. I can't think of any judge that deserves $153,000. But they'll tell you how hard they work. But anyway, it goes against my moral conscience to sit there and even pretend to support a 25% tax increase on the people of this county. Now, coming in the rear, before the 25% is even included, you've got the school board to come in.
That ain't even part of the 25%.
Now, Mr. Mike Orrick He has a good handle and a good perception of the financial condition of this county. He is very sympathetic towards that. But he's sitting here with a school system also that is woefully inadequately funded because all the money is going other places other than where it should be. The money should be in our schools, our roads, and law enforcement. All the rest of it is ancillary. It doesn't matter. Marlowe's worried about having a benefits clerk to keep in track of see who's had a tooth pulled.
Yeah.
But you know, we're in sad shape. Mr. Orick's aware of the money that the cafeteria workers earn. He's going to try to do something about it. But you know, the school system gets nothing of this 25% tax increase. Now they're getting $300,000 to make up for enrollment loss, but that only restores what they've lost. Why are they losing enrollment? Because people are moving from Campbell County.
They're leaving this county in droves.
You have a normal turnover of about 140 to 160 students per year in a system of our size. That is, they'll move to somewhere else. The problem is, no one's moving back into Campbell County to make up for that.
Right.
That's a problem. In other words, our school system each year is shrinking because of no industry. Talk to Mike Orick someday. He can give you the picture. He is a very qualified, astute gentleman. He is a top drawer appraiser. He sees property, what's happening to it, and he knows full well that these citizens cannot endure a 25% tax increase while at the same time he's got a school system to support financially.
Right.
As chairman, I'm talking about him and the school board.
As chairman, it's his job to get as much for the school system as he can.
So tell me, who's right? Who's wrong? There's just not enough money. Mr. Jennings put it in perspective one time. He says, you've got a government, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, you've got a government you can't afford. Cut. They have not made one cut. Not one.
They keep adding.
And as a matter of fact, I understand the school board the county commission met last night, and they couldn't get a quorum.
They were going to have a budget meeting last night, folks. And these are the people you elected. I elected. We all, if you voted, you elected them. Okay. They had a meeting, a budget meeting, to talk about our budget. As important as that is, okay, they only had 7 of the 15 members show up. So they couldn't have the meeting because you have to have 8. You don't have and so these is your members, folks, that you vote for, I voted for. We need to find out who those 7 were, pat them on the back because they're concerned about the county. Those other 8, I guess they had a hot dog social or something to go to. I don't know. But they didn't show up to talk about the budget that pays for the work that goes in this county. That's a shame, is what it is.
And you know, it's like Boomer Twang in his article. You can tell that you can tell by the slant of his writing in the negative attitude that he took towards me exercising my constitutional rights,
Right.
and the rights of other commissioners,
Right.
to try to steer the budget in the other direction.
Yeah.
You know, here he is, supposed to be of high journalistic integrity, a county employee, and here he is writing biased articles and publishing them on TV.
On WLAF.
And I always thought journalists were supposed to be above and beyond.
They're supposed to write the story. He's not an editorial, so you're on the air.
Yes, sir, Jerry.
Yeah.
Earlier in your program, you mentioned something about a resignation at the rock quarry. What's going on with that?
We got okay, since you asked.
That's a hard question.
Let me get in. I'm not going to mention the commissioner's name. He's out of the 5th district. But we've got a commissioner that about 3 weeks ago, we had a caller to this show 2 weeks ago, asked me, was I aware that one of the commissioners got hired to run the rock quarry, that the road superintendent hired this commissioner. So I checked on it, found out that he was hired as an employee, okay, as an employee to run the rock quarry. I called Jeff Marlowe's office and I called the road department. Both verified to me that he had been hired, okay. Evidently, he's been, since that caller called in and made people aware of it, and I checked on it, and, evidently, a lot of folks been coming down on him, and apparently the road superintendent was catching a lot of static because they hired this guy off the county commission to come in there and run the road department, or run the rock quarry, when there's other employees been there 10, 15 years, probably didn't appreciate him hiring them over, hiring him over them, okay? So this county commissioner, apparently there was a meeting of the ways there, and he decided to resign, okay? Well, I'm going to give you my opinion about what he said Monday night. He got up at the commission meeting and said, I want you all to know I never was hired out there full time. Somebody took a 2-week vacation, and I just filled in for 2 weeks while they were on vacation, okay? Well, my opinion, and that commissioner, if you're watching, that was an absolute lie that he sat there and told the people. That's my opinion of that, okay? I want you to ask yourself some questions, okay? If you're running a business, okay, you work for somebody. I know who this caller is. He's a former county commissioner himself. You work, when you take a vacation, okay, does your employer hire somebody off the street to come in and fill in for you for a week or two while you're gone on vacation?
That amounts to double pay.
Whether or not that he,
Nobody does that.
that's correct.
Nobody does it. Nobody. If you take a vacation, how many of you people out there that have a job, when you go on vacation, does your employer hire somebody to fill in for you while you're gone? It just don't happen. Another question I have is, the commissioner, you know the answer to this. How many employees of the county are allowed to take a 2-week vacation back to back? I don't think the county allows that. I may be wrong, but I don't think it's allowed.
No, indeed not. That'd leave too many holes in the system.
Yeah, a 2-week vacation. So,
well, look here, whether the commissioner took the job for 2 weeks or 2 days, it was still illegal.
well, no, it wasn't. There wasn't anything illegal about it. It was improper.
Well, if you're already serving on the county commission, you can't take a job with the county. But if you're working on the county before you take office, you're okay.
I don't think that's correct. I think we've checked into that. I don't think that's correct.
You can't hold.
We experienced a lawsuit in another county,
Okay.
and the commissioner, he worked for the county and drove a gravel truck for the quarry operation.
Okay.
And so he got elected as county commissioner, and he was challenged. And so the state of Tennessee, it might have been CTAS, I'm not sure who made the decision, said that since he was working already, he was okay.
Yeah.
But since you're
But now there's a statute here about he can't vote, because he gave that as an excuse as to why he decided to quit that position, because he found out he wouldn't be allowed to vote on certain aspects of the budget. He said, so I felt like the best thing to do. I mean, he caught so much static over it. I want to use another word, but he caught so much static over it. He's trying to cover him for himself instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to just be honest with you. I'm going to be truthful. I did something, the people didn't appreciate it, and I'm going to back off, is what he should have said, instead of sitting down there, my opinion again, just absolutely looking at the people and just lying to them. This is my opinion, just lying to them and saying, I only worked for 2 weeks to cover for somebody. It never was intended to be a full-time job. When I checked with the finance office, they said, yes, he's been hired, he is an employee. I checked with the road department, they said, yes, he is employed here. None of them said, well, it's only for 2 weeks while somebody's on vacation. He made that story up to try to make himself look good last night. In my opinion, he just absolutely lied to the people.
well,
And I didn't appreciate it.
even if he only took it for 2 weeks, that's still illegal.
It's not illegal. Well, there's an opinion that says, I don't know if it's illegal. Okay, I've got an opinion because I checked on it. I got an opinion said it's improper. He can't vote on it, but it wasn't illegal. That's an opinion that I got from the county attorney.
Well,
Yeah, something similar to that came up when we were talking about whether a commissioner took a job or transferred. And she was allowed to transfer.
She wears left because she's still an employee. She just transferred departments. So there was no issue there.
Well,
The way I heard about it, a commissioner, a newly elected commissioner, came up to me and said, the commissioner from the 5th district that took the job at the rock quarry quit. I said, why? He said the heat got too much. I said, well, that is a pretty hot place to work out there. And he said, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it got hot. I said, oh, okay. So, and evidently, this commissioner that worked at the rock quarry had given him the reason why he left, is that it got hot.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jerry, I appreciate the program. Enjoy it. So have a good evening.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay. You're on the air.
Hey, I have a question.
Okay.
Who was the county commissioner Monday night that said that since a commissioner gets compensated and benefits, that all of them have a conflict of interest?
He asked the question. That was Rusty York.
He does not know the difference between an elected county commissioner and an employee of the county?
He asked Joe that question, didn't he, Jim?
Yes.
He didn't make that as a statement. He asked the question of Joe. If I remember correctly, and I'm trying to go from memory, he asked Joe, he said, Joe, since we all get paid and, all this, are we not all employees of the county?
He don't know the difference between an elected commissioner and an employee of the county?
Well,
He's been on there for 5 years?
well, he's been on there longer than that.
No wonder that jail was in such a mess.
Yeah, I think he's been on there, I think this is his 9th or 10th year. And maybe more than that.
And he still don't know the difference between an elected commissioner and a county employee?
You'll have to ask him that question. I don't know.
So when you get elected to the county commission, that don't make you an employee of the county.
And I agree with you, and there's laws that says you can do that and vote on the budget,
But anyway,
even though you're getting paid.
I just thought that's the kind of people, Mr. Slusher and Mr. Chadwell, that you have to deal with down there every time you have a meeting.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, guys.
Thank you, buddy.
I serve on the Property Assessment Equalization Board, and I have for, 7, 8 years, something like that. This year was a strange year in that we got businesses coming in and relaying their plight to us about the situation of things and about the profit loss and so forth, and what the property taxes are doing to them. They got hit right between the eyes last year, 13.1%. And folks, these businesses hire people. When businesses close, they lay off people. And then I tell them at the end of the meeting, you better get ready. There's a 25% coming, and I think one guy, he practically flipped out, and he said, you've got to be kidding. I said, no. You're going to get hit with a minimum of 25%. Now, when you come back, that 25% doesn't include the school board. But you come back and look at what's going to happen next year. Because things aren't changing. Mr. Orrick told me. The prosperity hasn't come here. We have no growth. We are a no-growth county. And we are losing population. The next census, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't drop from around 40,000 citizens down to around, I'd say 37,000 citizens in this county. That's exodus. Just what it did to Egypt.
Right.
robbed them of several million people.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be gone and they won't be back. There's no place for them here once they leave. How can a county commissioner, and I'm not saying this for grandstanding and everything, how can a county commissioner look in some child's face and say, I took your mommy and daddy's home away from them? Did you know we had a record tax sale this year, Jerry?
In my understanding, it was a very high record tax sale
That's people's homes going on the auction block.
because they couldn't afford to pay the taxes.
You know, this country looks back with great disappointment and shame as to what happened during the Great Depression, of what happened in Oklahoma, of the banks coming in and taking the property. We just came out of the greatest recession this country ever had. You know what made it great? It was really a depression. Because if the government hadn't bailed the banks out, and boy, that burns me that they got bailed out. But if they hadn't, we would have gone down the tubes like we did in the 30s, the 1929 crash. But how can a commissioner put a priority over a minimal service in the county over the best interest of the very people that elected them? I don't understand. 40% in Campbell County? Our average per capita income here is between $13,000 and $14,000 a year. We're on the bottom in the state of Tennessee, and Tennessee is on the bottom nationally.
You're on the air.
Okay, I just want to talk to these gentlemen and just make a statement. I didn't want to create no Jesse James stuff. They're having a big argument.
Okay. Turn your TV down.
Turn my TV down.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing your TV in the background.
I know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this, man. What about now?
Okay. Yeah, because you're sometimes when folks call in, they'll listen to TV, and there's about a 4 or 5 second delay.
Okay.
So go ahead with your point, sir.
Okay. What I just want to make a statement about was, if these people here in Campbell County who are working in this county, living in this county, if they would take their money and spend it where they make it, what do you think this county would be?
Well, what would they spend it on? We've got nothing here to spend it on other than Walmart, some banks, some pharmacies, and some gas stations.
I didn't hear the question.
I think he was saying if they take the money they make and spend it all here in the county, then the county would be better off.
They don't make any money.
Well, I'm talking about the people that work out of the county in Knox County,
Right.
Anderson County. The people that work down there and work over in Knox County,
Yeah.
if they took their money back to Knoxville or Anderson County, where it is they make it, and spend it down there, then what would this county be like? Even though they go to Walmart and spend their money, they buy a few odds and ends here in town and gas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What would happen if they took their money out of town and spent it?
Well, they do take their money out of town and spend it.
Where do they spend it at?
Well, I mean, if you want to go to the movies, you go out of town. If you want to go have a nice dinner, you go out of town. If you want to go shopping for nice clothing, you go out of town.
They buy the vehicles out of town.
Huh?
They buy most of the vehicles out of town.
Yeah. I mean, we've only got a couple of car lots in town. So yeah, you buy most of the people's. I'd say probably 80% of the vehicles or more are bought out of town. So I guess I'm missing your point.
Well, it's like I said, it's the people.
I think I know what it is.
If they spent the money here, we'd be in better shape. We just don't have places to spend it here, is our point. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Then, but what this man was saying about the manufacturing people coming in here, if there was a place for the manufacturing people to spend their money in this county, then there'd be a heck of a lot better off.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we have to realize is we've got to all have something to offer a manufacturer or an industry to come in here. We've got to have something to give them. Are we going to tell them that we've got a school system that's unequaled? No.
No.
The first two things you offer them is a better school system and better roads, and we're not putting any money into those things.
Are we going to tell them that we have land for industry that can be developed and we take them out to the site and the road is impassable?
Well, we do have the properties. People would get off of it.
Are we going to tell them that we have a well-trained workforce available when there's been no study done to even tell people what?
No, you're telling the truth, buddy. You're telling the truth. I don't know how they survive.
But here we are. The commission is proposing to appropriate $300,000 to hire an industrial recruiter. But where's the job description? Where's the plan for the use of that money? No one has seen anything. There is no plan, but they're going to appropriate $300,000. You know what I'd say? Take that $300,000, if I were going to vote for a tax increase, take that $300,000 and start improving your roads and start improving your schools.
That's a fact. You're telling the truth, neighbor.
Yeah.
But we've got to have infrastructure to attract business here. Just simply saying, well, we've got an industrial recruiter now. Boy, they're going to beat the doors down to come into Campbell County. That ain't going to happen.
When they learn a trade under that industrial program, they'll go to Knox County or Anderson County somewhere and go to work down there.
And
because there ain't nothing here for them to use it for.
We've got to have something. It takes, and I talked to Jeff Marlowe about this, and I'm not going to knock Mr. Marlowe's business skills. He's very adept. And I said, Jeff, what do you think about this industrial development? He looked at me, he said, 10 years. I said, or longer. He said, or longer. Now, this is a guy that I have some very basic philosophical differences with, but he's a very intelligent person, and he knows what'll work and what won't work. He's being used in his wrong capacity. I think he ought to report to the mayor, but they'd rather him report to CTAS and the 81 Act.
Thank you, buddy.
I'm going to make one statement and I'll leave.
Okay.
Back years ago, there was 3 or 4 families in La Follette, Brandis County. And it hasn't let up since.
I was going to say it's still the same way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fact. That's all I got to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My dad lived to be 99 years old, and he knew this area. He was principal at Egan and Pruden and Henderson Settlement, a bunch of these coal mining camps and stuff. And we were driving through La Follette, and when I was getting ready to relocate up here, and he said, Jim, did you know that La Follette used to have more millionaires than just about any city in the Tennessee? And I said, no. He said it was a boom town. Said the coal barons did anything they could to get to La Follette, to get out of those coal fields and escape the labor fights. But at one time this area was a boom town.
Right.
Now the only thing that can be touted by the county as far as an attraction is the lake.
Is the lake. You're on the air.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, buddy.
Appreciate y'all laying this stuff out. I would make just a simple comment or suggestion as to how you start solving problems. You've mentioned 2 or 3 things here. You mentioned there that there was a meeting of one of our departments, whether I don't know whether it's education or whatever, but you stated that they did not have enough people.
It was a county commission. It was a budget meeting.
I'm sorry, the county.
It was a county commission meeting. It was a budget meeting of the county commissioners.
And by the way, 2 commissioners were out at the last meeting drawing their pay, but they were not there. I guess they were on vacation at the rock quarry, but.
This was specifically what I was going to address. If you want to solve these problems, start with your little ones. Start holding people accountable. And anyone who is an elected official and is required to be at a meeting does not show up, does not get paid or get his benefits. And also in your school system, if you're going to, in order to get up your scores and whatever, there are certain things that you could do, and I've heard of another school system doing this. They said, we cut the ball programs, we cut everything until we get our grades up.
Right.
And this is what's called motivation. And until we start solving these problems, cutting away at the little things, you start whittling away at these little things, and you'll eventually solve your big problems. It's the little ones, the ones that eat you up. And thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
To give you an indication of something that comes to my mind, a couple of years ago, we had a top drawer football season.
Yeah.
We gave the coach a tremendous bonus.
$6,000.
$6,000.
If I remember right.
I wonder how many teachers got that kind of bonus for, say, having a student that scored 32 or 33 or 34 on the ACT. What kind of recognition?
Yeah, we
they
had a
got
young
from the
lady that
school
got
board?
100% on that writing essay a couple of months ago. Did her teachers get a bonus for helping her out?
No.
You're on the air. We got to be quick.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's up?
Hey, Tom Hatmaker here.
Okay.
Hey, Rick, going back to what Jim was talking about there earlier on the wheel tax, them not doing a ruling on having to back up and reimburse the citizens on the wheel tax there. Worse than that, this tangible personal property tax. According to the IRS, the only ones that are subject to double taxation are corporations because they pay dividends to their stockholders. Everyone that gets tangible personal property tax, it's an illegal tax unless you're a corporation. And I have told Joe Coker on several occasions, when they get ready to go to court over this, I'm glad, more than willing to go to court, because when they lose, they're going to have to back up and reimburse everybody that they've been charging this for years. And I have yet to get a summons to court over this. So it's like $25, but I don't pay it because it's an illegal tax.
Yeah.
To give you also an idea, what was there, 75 businesses in La Follette that weren't paying their business
75 to 100.
taxes?
Thank you, Tom. 75 to 100. So, Honeybee, how much time we got?
Is that an indication
How
that
much?
they can't afford it?
Okay. Honeybee says we got 10 seconds, folks. We appreciate you. We got a lot more information. Come back next week.